we want to warmly welcome you all into our global room. And this is a meeting, a conference, and a gathering that's taking place across the globe in 4 time zones, at least.
And 6 countries.
Yes, at least as well, because I've heard some people, there's a person from Spain introducing herself earlier. There are people who are now actually able to join us who would not otherwise perhaps have been able to join. Just to give you a brief introduction actually to what we're doing. We will, if we're ready to switch screens and stuff and feeds. I'm looking at my technical crew in the back of the room. Yeah. So just to, for those of you who have seen it before, and for those of you who have not seen our intro clip to what we're doing here, we're just going to start by viewing this short video. All right.
Global meetings can actually be flight-free. Today, we have all the tools and means to bring the whole world to the table with near-zero emissions. It makes no climate sense to fly people from all over the world to one place if we can all meet without a single plane ride. We can think global and act local, for real. The global community has set clear common goals in the 2030 agenda, and we're now in the decade of delivery. We all need to take action, and we need to do it together, leaving no one behind. In a digital pilot course, Sida, along with partners, modeled what we see as the way forward. We now know from experience that it's possible to work smarter. With regional hubs on 4 continents, local facilitators nurtured in real-life interactions and exchange between participants, just as usual. With the use of digital streaming and conferencing tools, we linked the hubs together. We took away the barriers of distance and created new possibilities for partnerships and conversations across the globe. We used the time zones to our advantage as a resource to co-create around the world, around the clock. It's clear that a single event is not enough. By continuing to develop this approach of global meetings, we can also reframe the narratives and shift who's driving the agenda. Actors in development in the Global South can now take a central role in the transformation that's needed. The message is clear. Let us make even more global connections, and let's make them flight-free. The transformation requires everyone's participation right here, right now. Sida will continue to facilitate partnerships and development cooperation and drive the change for innovative digital transformation. Join us in the journey of shaping a sustainable tomorrow. Let's be the change.
Okay, let's be the change. So once again, since I know we have new ones, followers, participants, co-creators that have joined us, good morning and good afternoon for those who are in other different time zones. What we have entered here is a global digital event that is entitled People and Planet. And this comes timely because we have not only entered this particular event, People and Planet, but also we have entered a new decade, the decade of action. How come we say the decade of action? It's because we have only 10 years remaining to go until we are to accomplish and achieve the 2030 agenda. And it's clear to us as Sida, as one of the organizers of this global event, that status quo is not working. Clearly, our planet is about to break down. So status quo is not working. And we don't have enough people. We don't have currently enough resources. We don't currently have enough solutions to achieve 2030 agenda. So we must break status quo, and we must start to explore a more transformative approach. That is the only possible way to achieve 2030 agenda. That is also why we as Sida have come to realize that we must ourselves work in core partnerships. So for this particular global learning event, People and Planet, we have worked from the start in a close partnership with United Nations Environmental Programme and their global Faith for Earth initiative. And you will soon hear more from UNEP, but that has been of great strategic importance for us. And in fact, if we look at Sweden and Swedish Development Cooperation, we are currently channeling 51% of our development assistance to the multilateral system. So UN agencies are core partners of great strategic importance. And the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency is another government agency in Sweden. That was actually the first government agency to push for flight-free digital meetings and conferences. And with us here in the Härnösand Learning Hubs, we have Bengt Littorin, a representative from the agency. And we have worked with the team, even there, in partnership, to work around the methodologies on how to design global digital learning experiences. In addition, we also have a third core partner to Sida, the Stockholm International Water Institute. And soon you will also hear from them, but they have been they have taken the lead globally on building innovative partnership platforms where they have managed to merge secular and faith actors, agencies, academia, in a very unique explorative way. And this is something we have picked up on as Sida, and it has been of great strategic importance to learn from SIWI's partnerships approach. In addition to our core partners, of course, we have all our strategic partners around the globe that you are all representing as participants in the People and Planet. So regardless if you come from a social enterprise, NGO, faith-based organization, religious institutions, academic institutions, or government agency or UN agency, you are considered a key actor in People and Planet. And we are really looking forward to hear from all of you throughout these 3 coming days. Why have we chosen to focus particularly on faith actors, cultural leaders, and indigenous people in relation to environment and climate, thematically, in the nexus we are addressing here? It's precisely because we see that what is needed for urgently is to strengthen our normative dialogue. It's not enough with financial resources. We can't solve and resolve the 2030 agenda with only technical solutions and financial resources. We need people on our planet. And who are the ones who are mobilizing people, who are gathering people, who are constituted by people? Cultural, faith groups, indigenous groups. Those groups also constitute groups that are close to local communities, based bottom-up, everywhere around the planet. So what we are trying here is to build a complementary counter-movement to the top-down approach. Of course, we need more legislation and more policies in place in order to realize 2030 agenda. But we also need the bottom-up approach with mobilization from below. If we look around the globe, spiritual values are present everywhere. If you look at different world value studies around the globe, you can see that majority of the world population associate themselves, are part of a faith or a spiritual movement. And they also take their moral decisions based on their faith identity. So if we are to change drastically, radically, consumption patterns, lifestyle approaches to save our planet, we must also dig deeper into the nexus of faith and climate and environment. And that's why we are here, and that's why it's also of great importance to gather up as a multi-stakeholder base. Not only to have faith actors here, or secular actors here, or governments, or UN, but to have this broad spectrum of actors. That is the only possible way to go deeper when exploring this. We have, as the organizers, designed and elaborated from 4 core concepts that will guide us throughout these 3 days. And the first guiding concept is co-creation. All of you that are part of this global normative dialogue now are physically based everywhere around the globe, and you are not supposed to be a passive listener, but an active co-creator. So start already now to think, what is your unique contribution? What are some of the unique insights you're carrying? Make sure that when we all leave on Wednesday, that you have really shared that with the rest of the participants in the People and Planet. And the second guiding concept for us is system thinking. It's clear that the way we have worked to achieve the 2030 agenda has not worked. So we must now explore creatively new approaches. We need all ideas that can be brought to the table. And we also need to involve more of the cultural sector, where we have a lot of creative thinkers and designers. Also, in order to solve our current crisis with biodiversity loss and climate change, we must think in systems. We cannot just run anymore a single project or program or initiative, but we must see what the overall interconnections are. So system thinking will guide us through. The third guiding concept is the sense we're carrying of urgency. Not only around coronavirus spread, but the urgency, of course, around biodiversity loss and climate change. And we want, in these 3 days, to not only create solutions, but also to bring hope and to turn our sense of urgency into a constructive sense of delivery. So from urgency to delivery. Our fourth and final guiding concepts for these 3 days is normative dialogue. In this dialogue, no one is neutral. We all carry a package of experiences, values, maybe religious values or political ideologies, ideas. The point is that this is a strength. This is not something we should hide away. So none of us enters this as neutral persons, but we should rather be curious to one another, where we come from, what we carry with us, and how we can bring that constructively to the dialogue. So finally, I would like to share few things about my background. I have experience of working within this particular nexus. I've done it for the last 15 years. And when I conducted research for my PhD, I tried to explore both theoretically and empirically how we can actually broaden the normative dialogue, and to see how actors such as faith actors fit into the larger picture and the system at large, which we often call development cooperation. And since few years back, I got the great opportunity to join Sida. And since then, I've been working on building capacity development for Sida strategic partners. So I will be guiding you throughout these 3 days, together with my colleague Ola, who will introduce himself more right now, actually.
Right now, right here, right now. Thank you so much, Josephine, and thank you for involving me on this ride as well. We, as Josephine mentioned, we are quite a few number of people who have been on this ride for a couple of months now, and we have joined, as you mentioned as well, across the globe from our different locations. So you all who are joining us digitally and virtually, as well as in person in your locations, you are sort of centered around 6 major hubs that we started working with partner organizations to get this event to happen. We are joining from Härnösand. We're also getting people who had planned to be here, who are now in Stockholm or other parts of Sweden. We have people in Sarajevo, Dobar dan, Sarajevo. We have people in Amman, Assalamu alaikum, Amman, and Nairobi, as well as Pretoria, and other parts of South Africa and Southern Africa. And we have our friends in Jakarta. And we, for the co-organizing partners, have been working on this program for a while now. What we're now here in the midst of is to kick off this this program and the content, the very essential discussions that we need to be having on faith and environment and climate in this particular time. Maybe, as so many things, more important than ever. These days, myself personally, and probably all of you can relate that the question of language is always of importance. And one thing that I have seen and have also talked to people about is this concept of social distancing. As we saw in the little film clip before, which was filmed a lot prior to the outbreak of COVID-19, we are talking about wanting to have more global meetings, more global connection, interconnections, and also social connections. We're right now joining socially. We might, or we should keep physical distance in mind when it comes to viral spreads, but the social aspects are more important than ever when people are getting isolated. Vulnerable groups are getting more and more isolated and at risk of being hit hard by the pandemic. And we need to connect socially. And that's what we're doing right here. And the way we're going to do that, so my job during these 3 days is to guide us in the process. I will not claim to be the expert on faith and environment and climate. We have other very intelligent people in all our rooms, including the global one, who are far more intelligent on that matter than I am. I want to guide us in the process of how we talk to each other and how we connect. The way this is going to work, one main aspect, and we have, as you might have understood, we have been working around the clock for the past the past few days or weeks even, and to make adjustments, to have our plan A, B, C, D, E. And we will still trip up, and that's okay, because we're trying, and we're all in this together. So we will try to use the principle of making each other look good. I don't know if you've ever tried that. It's kind of a mind shift for sometimes, but the principle of making each other look good means that, you know, even if someone says something that I don't agree with, or that might even sound stupid to me, I don't necessarily go for the throat at once, you know. I might give the person the benefit of the doubt. I might even listen. Might even listen intently, closely. And so we might want to try that out. Just as an experiment. Make each other look good. And yeah. Getting all types of images about bad hair days in front of the laptop at home in the kitchen and stuff. But, you know, it's all good. We're going to see parts of each other's humanity that we might not have seen if we came together as we usually do in the boardrooms. So in the morning sessions, my time zone right now, but for Rudy and all of you in Jakarta and Indonesia, in different parts of Indonesia, since you're not all, also not all assembled, in your afternoon this time, we'll be having the global sessions. And very soon I'm going to stop talking and start introducing our contributors, because we have very impressive and knowledgeable lineup of people who will help us kick off these thematic approaches. The global sessions will be joined by what we call the twinning sessions, which is a closer joining of two of the hubs. And all of the participants who've gotten the information, you know where you're going. We will also send out reminder links tomorrow afternoon. Oh no, tomorrow there is a session called the Global Open Space. This is another example of a time when I'm going to need all of you to make me look good, because this is an experiment, okay? This Global Digital Open Space will be an opportunity for you all to suggest your thematic interest, to join people from all the different locations around discussions that you find are at the forefront of what is necessary to talk about. I'm going to just drink some water. We'll take my own. Okay. Better. The open space, if you want to suggest a theme, there'll be a link to a form that you can fill in to suggest that theme, sent out in the Zoom chat right now.
And actually not only to suggest, but to facilitate. Because we had a few also sessions that some of the sessions are already worked on and settled. And we also have decided to create room for more open space sessions. So if you have an idea, a unique approach you want to share with others, a unique methodology, or an insight or an experience, and you have an idea how you can frame that as a digital open space session, that's what you should do. You should use the form Andrew will send out now and fill it in, and the deadline to submit is today at 6 p.m. Swedish time. And
I just realized that we have a limited number of Zoom accounts that we're actually going to host these sessions from. But I'm improvising here. If you happen to have a Zoom account and if you want to host your session, you could also write your Zoom address in this form so that we can set that up in the same format so that we can even have more than 10 sessions if we want to. So there's up to 10 sessions available at the moment. If you are hungry, innovative, and want to host something by yourself, there's actually an option to host a free Zoom meeting for 40 minutes. That's the cap. So yeah, we'll try that out. But otherwise, we have 10 set accounts that we'll work from. All right. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker, our first contributor, who is unfortunately not able to be with us at this very moment. He has been working hard. He's one of the initiators of this collaboration, and he's been working so hard to get the Nairobi hub together, working from his UNEP office, so UN Environment in Nairobi, and the Faith for Earth initiative within UN Environment. So Iyad Abu Moghli has been a key contributor, and he is joining us via video recorded yesterday.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, friends. It is a very fortunate and time that I am talking to you. I wanted so badly to be in person with you, or actually live with you. But as you all know, the situation around the globe is developing minute by minute. And I have some personal emergency that I need to attend to. So I would like you to excuse me for not being with you in person or a direct and live. However, I'm very proud and I'm very happy that we are going ahead with this digital global conference. You know, we are making future today. This is how things should go, or should have already started long time ago. There are so many reasons for that. The first one is exactly what's happening today. And this is the way we should deal with emergencies at the global level. We should not sit back and say, we cannot do anything, we cannot meet. No, we can meet, we can continue working, and we can connect the entire globe together. So today, on behalf of the United Nations Environment Program and its Faith for Earth initiative, and with our partners from the Swedish International Development Agency, Sida, SIWI, and the Swedish Environment Authority, I welcome you today to this important conference. Of course, you know that there are 6 countries that are connected. We initially wanted to be 6 hubs, but apparently now we are probably 16 hubs, which is even better. And this is exactly the way it should be. Now, if you allow me, let me talk a little bit about the Faith for Earth initiative, which was created in 2017. So we are celebrating our 2nd anniversary, and we're moving into the 3rd year. The Faith for Earth initiative was created as a result of an engagement strategy of the United Nations Environment Program, engaging with faith-based organizations. As you know, Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals are not UN agenda, it's a global agenda, and everybody has a role in it. All societies, all sectors of the society, the private sector, universities, civil society, and so on. but we have realized that we are missing a lot from not involving an effective and powerful part of the society, which is faith leaders and faith-based organizations. So we have come up with a strategy that would empower and enable faith leaders to have a voice at the global level in intergovernmental fora, as well as with the communities. To do so, we have an obligation to provide the scientific evidence and knowledge that is required by faith leaders to make their preaches and speeches scientifically based, and to connect the science and faith teachings together. So when an imam or a priest or a rabbi goes to preach, they need the scientific facts. They need it in a language that reaches the heart of the people, because the message of the heart is the most powerful message. So the Faith for Earth initiative, with all the achievements that we have done, we have realized that we do need to build the capacity of faith leaders to be able to engage on contemporary issues. Engage, for example, on climate change, on resource efficiency, on ecosystem restoration, and so on. So that is the purpose of today's conference. The objectives of the conference today with all of our partners is to focus on a number of thematic areas. For example, in Indonesia and in Sweden, the focus will be on forests or forest management. In Jordan, in Jordan and in South Africa, they will focus on water resources management, which is the most important issue for those countries. And in Kenya and in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the focus will be on mobilizing young people and young faith leaders. So once you start the deliberations in your sessions and so on, please focus on those areas. And most importantly, start linking, for example, how faith leaders would benefit those working on forestation, and how people working on forestation would benefit the people working on water scarcity. The most important part in all of this is what we aim to achieve as Faith for Earth with all of our partners. As you probably know, we are aiming to establish a global coalition called Faith for Earth Coalition. The coalition we are envisaging to be composed of four main pillars. The first pillar is the highest faith leaders. We want the highest faith leaders to be in one room and convey one message to the world, because all of the religions of the world, they all agree on one common thing, which is the care for creation, which is the need to protect our Mother Earth. The second pillar is the pillar of young people or youth, who are the leaders of today and not only of tomorrow. Those have a major role to play. So we want you to consider how to mobilize faith leaders in working with local communities, with regional communities, and at the global level, how to bring voice to the voiceless, how to make environmental issues at the core and values, beliefs, and the teachings of religions at the core of decision-making. The third pillar of the coalition would be a consortium of scientists and theologians. We want them to meet eye to eye and to agree on common messages, common faith and science-based messages. And finally, the fourth pillar is the pillar of the CEOs of faith-based organizations, who can and are actually and have been doing great and a lot of work on all of the SDGs, on fighting poverty, on reducing hunger, on providing opportunities for women. So we do need those CEOs to meet and also work for environmental protection and protecting our Mother Earth. So at the end of this conference, I would like to see a commitment from organizations and institutions who are participating, a commitment to carry this message forward and to work together in one consolidated, coherent network that will convey and will build the capacity of other people in their institutions, so we become a global movement with a loud voice that can reach decision makers and can make a change. So I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope that this experience will be the norm, not an exception, in moving forward in such conferences. God bless you all and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Iyad. Thank you so, so much. And we send all our best to you as well. What we want to do now is that we want to introduce another key partner and co-organizer in this event, Katarina Veem from SIWI, Swedish International Water Institute. Yes, please, let's see if we can get you connected and shown to everybody in the Zoom room globally. We might need just a moment to get that all set up, but I'm sure we'll be there shortly. Katarina, I will also pull up in the meantime. I know you have a few presenting slides. Let's see. Oh, that was many slides. All right, let's see. Yes, Katarina, you are with us now, and in the meantime, Bengt is making sure that everybody else than Katarina is muted. Yeah, can we check your sound then, Katarina? You seem to be, so far you seem to be not carrying through. Right, we are not...
There.
Yes, there we go. Fantastic. All right, Katarina Veem from SIWI.
Good morning, everyone. Wow, this is really cool. Very exciting. I feel very privileged to be able to be part of this, even though I'm not with you in Härnösand. But that perhaps makes it all a bit more exciting. I want to welcome all the participants in Härnösand, but also perhaps even, an even warmer welcome to all of you who are online and who cannot meet in person, the social dimension that was also mentioned. But this really, the introduction, the beginning of this really gives me strong hope for this as a tool for us to listen to each other and continue building relationships, even though we're not meeting in person every time. I think that this opportunity to share together is really becoming a blessing. And I'm so grateful to Sida, to UNEP, and to the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency for collaborating and launching this important and really innovative course. Stockholm International Water Institute, we're a convener and a facilitator trying to bring attention to the global water challenges and to provide solutions in terms of governance and dialogue. What we really do is we try to speak with various partners from a broad spectrum from civil society to decision makers. And we want to deliver on a water-wise world. When it comes to water management, and I think also, as Iyad mentioned, not only water management, but the management of our resources of the planet, we need to have decisions that are long-lasting and robust. And when we have a broad understanding of spiritual and faith-based perspectives included in that, we think that those decisions, those perspectives, and the value of attributed to water, not only as a resource, but also with the connected spiritual values, that is when the decisions are going to be solid and long-term. SIWI's mission is achieved by building partnerships, dialogue of equals, mutual learning, capacity building. These are methods that we are using and that are essential to ensure this inclusive governance. My department, Swedish Waterhouse, has worked with a methodology that Josephine mentioned. We call it cluster groups, and it's basically, that's just giving it a name, but they're basically interdisciplinary, multi-stakeholder dialogue platforms. We identify a topic that we think needs more attention, that needs more, that needs more discussion and perhaps additional collaboration. We convene, we invite to a first seminar with experts of various, with various views on this topic. And at the end of that seminar, we say, who would like to stay and work together in this platform, on this platform? Usually it's about a 2-year process. And what we do then is that we facilitate this dialogue among the group. We're not saying what the group should think. It's just, let's discuss this topic and find the commonalities, the shared views, the shared values on how we could, bring this issue forward. It gives a shared purpose. And I know that from some of the private sector engagements that we've had, we don't really, private sector will say, okay, well, we discussed for 1 year and then we decided what we were going to do so that the project or the concrete work was done the second year. But from our perspective, one of the difficult things with many of these issues, and particularly contentious issues, is that a process of dialogue is needed in order to get to solutions. So we see all the process of discussion just as much part of the accomplishment and the dialogue as well as the final solutions. We have worked in this way with finance sector, with pharmaceuticals, with forests, and now we have a cluster group with 9 Swedish-based, faith-based organizations. And this is done in partnership with Church of Sweden. And it has been a very, very fruitful and interesting dialogue, which I hope also can contribute to Iyad's Faith for Earth coalition eventually. In addition to the Swedish dialogue, there has been an international set of dialogues that we have done on our large global platform, which is called World Water Week. And World Water Week brings attention to the global water challenges, but in Stockholm. And we meet, we bring together people for dialogue and partnerships, knowledge exchange, and capacity building jointly. So the Swedish network has grown out of this international dialogue. But let's, again, I hope, then link it to Iyad's Faith for Earth coalition. You will hear a little bit more from my colleagues Elizabeth Yari and Kristina Johansson throughout these days. And you'll meet them during the course, and they'll share with you how we work and the issues that we discuss. But before I end, I have to just say a little bit more on the, inspired by Iyad's video. We have worked extensively with both forests and of course with water scarcity. We have a regional office in South Africa in Pretoria. And we have a program, a capacity building program funded by Sida on actually the water and the forest linkages. In addition to that, we also have a youth program where we discuss the future of water challenges among young people. And we would very much like to contribute to the Faith for Earth Coalition by continuing the dialogue between our organizations even after this. In conclusion, I wish I could be there with you, but you will be well represented by SIWI. And if any of you are interested in engaging in dialogue with us, please send me an email or could take contact with my colleagues, and we can see if we can help out facilitating hubs in other parts of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katarina, and you are indeed with us. So you get a round of applause as well. Thank you so much. What we want to do now is to invite another person into our global room who is currently, hopefully, sleeping. She will be joining us by video and as well. This is Professor Dr. Azza Karam. She will introduce herself in a moment and will speak to you. Oh, no, that's not her at all. That is, yes, okay. We have another screen that we might want to share, which actually has Azza on it.
Great.
Yeah, so this gorgeous creature, though, which is worth protecting, I've often identified with the
Greetings,
the
peace be
sloth.
upon you all. My name.
Do we see what we're getting out into the global Zoom room? Okay, should we try again? Samma dator som tidigare. Okay, let's try to. We'll hit play and see if we find it. We have no idea where this sloth is coming from, but okay, maybe it's the picture changing. Ah. Okay. All right, let's maybe get someone. Windows pane. Making our way.
While we're setting it up, some of you might be wondering, are all joining in all sessions? So let me just remind you that all the morning sessions today, tomorrow, and on Wednesday will be global sessions, which means that we are talking to everyone around the globe. After that, the time which is just midday before lunch will be the time for twinning sessions, when we will divide ourselves 2 countries, dialoguing on our own part. And every afternoon this week, we will have some on-site sessions for those who have assembled together in these 6 countries, and shorter digital versions for those of you who are joining online.
And of course, Jakarta, the times for you are shifted by the 6-hour time difference from us and 4 hours from Nairobi, etc. But we will all be joining in that manner described.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Thank you, Bengt.
Greetings, peace be upon you all. My name is Azza Karam, and I serve as the Secretary General of Religions for Peace, which is a global interreligious movement that has lasted for the last 50 years and brings together religious leaders and religious institutions to work together for the common good. It is my great privilege to be able to share a few thoughts with you here today and now. I come to this position in Religions for Peace International after having served in the United Nations as a coordinator of a UN interagency task force on religion and development, and as a senior advisor on culture and religion at the United Nations Population Fund. So I've been working in this space of religion, development, diplomacy for perhaps the last 35 years, which means I still have plenty to learn. And what I hope to be able to share with you today are just a couple of thoughts that link our dynamics of the moment we're in now, both in terms of what's going on in our environment, what's going on in our economy, our politics, and our general social relations and interaction with one another and with the earth that we happen to live and breathe on. It's not a surprise to any of you that we're talking right now to one another in the context of a global pandemic called the COVID, or the coronavirus, which has, in a sense, held the whole world and is holding the whole world a bit of a hostage to its rampant spread. Like pandemics and like human thought and human behavior, it really does not know, this particular disease does not know any national borders, any ethnic or gender or geographic borders whatsoever. It impacts on us all without selectivity. And what we're trying to do together as movements of religious and spiritual communities is actually to have a very positive virus of dedication, commitment, optimism that also knows no religious or gender or geographic barriers. We need to work together to save this particular environment. I may be wrong to believe this, but I sincerely believe that the coronavirus is a signal, a very powerful signal to us for the need, the absolute need, not the luxury, not the let's think about it later, but the absolute need now to behave, to think, to act very differently from the ways in which we have long considered to be normal. The virus is a wake-up call to each and every institution and individual that tells us that the way we have traditionally related to one another, the way we have treated our environment, our colleagues, our families, our communities, our nations, that there is something seriously diseased in this particular space of accompaniment to one another and to our earth. Which is why, if we look at this virus as a very powerful signal to us for the urgent needs to transform our relationships with one another, our understanding of one another as human beings, indeed as living species, then we understand that this issue of coming together as people of faith for the environment and with the environment is not a luxury, it's not an afterthought, it is a human existential and living existential crisis and necessity. And the disease that we confront is a disease of what we have done to ourselves and to our world. It is an opportunity for us to come together in ways that are powerful, transformative, and perhaps building on what we know, our traditions already, whether we are coming from monotheistic traditions or polytheistic traditions, whether we come from north or south or east or west, whether we are black or yellow or brown or blue, that we actually can and have inherited traditions and calls to action that insist and call upon us, and have done so since time immemorial, call upon us to behave differently, to think as one organism rather than as multiple organisms. And this is precisely what we need to be able to do in this, through this course, through this learning, through this communication with one another that builds on what we know we can do, what we have done as secular communities, as faith-based and faith-inspired, as traditional, as spiritual institutions and individuals. What is it that we know works to not only save the environment, but to protect, to nurture, to sustain one another in relationship with one another and with this earth that we desperately need and crave? Because let's face it, if the water that we drink, the land that we step on, the air that we breathe is as polluted as it currently is, there is no point to us discussing the value of religion or of humanity for that matter. we have no choice but to be able to save this environment and to honor it in every sense in order for us to honor one another and to be able to exist. So everything else that we speak about in the space of international relations, foreign policy, economics and finance, development, everything else is actually secondary to the need, the urgent need to honor the earth on which we live and breathe and nurture. So therefore, this particular moment in time is a moment of recollection. Yes, we have a crisis. It is a crisis. It is also an opportunity. It is an opportunity to be able to understand how do we honor our faith traditions, our spiritual traditions. For many of us, such as in the indigenous communities of the world, honoring ourselves is honoring the earth that we walk on, the air that we breathe, the food that we eat. That is what it means to honor one another. That is what it means to honor the earth. For the rest of us who come from such different polytheistic traditions or monotheistic traditions, to honor God or the Creator is precisely the same principle. It is the principle of honoring the land on which we stand and walk, that God has given us as an inheritance, and for which we have a moral obligation, every single one of us, a moral obligation to honor. And by honoring one another, we cannot succeed if we don't honor that land. So how do we honor this community that we live in, this earth that we live on? How do we honor one another better? Well, quintessentially through the relationships and the relationship building that is part of what we call partnerships. We have many ways of relating to one another. We have over years, thanks to human resilience sometimes and thanks to absolute necessity imposed on us by nature, we have found ways of relating to one another. This age that we live in has taught us that there are multiple new ways of relating to one another, but so far we seem to still be dispersed. We need platforms that are provided already. We need to come together across our supposed differences. Our new partnership platforms need not be new in the sense that people never existed before, never talked to one another before, but there's a new intentionality that is absolutely required and called upon here. And that is the point about we're so connected, there's too much information out there. Yes, indeed there is. How do we harvest that connectivity in ways that honor each and every one of us? And this is where the new partnerships needs to come into space. So far, we have worked and prejudiced to some extent the secular way of thinking and the secular environment and the secular institutions. But we are at a moment in time where we know that even the religious, if every single religion was to be able to mobilize powerfully on its own, in its own space and within its own communities, even if that were to happen, it would still not be sufficient to save this earth that we have. What we need is every single religious and spiritual tradition and institution working together collaboratively. What we need is every single secular institution working together collaboratively. And what we need is not to be able to see any divides between secular, religious, north and south, east and west, brown or yellow. What we need is the indivisibility of our human interconnectedness to come together. And this is an opportunity. This here, right now, is an opportunity for us to connect and to communicate better. So let's listen to one another. Let's honor one another. Let us raise the commitment and dedication that you see in platforms like Faith for Earth, like the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative. Let there not be separate platforms. Let us come together as different committed actors in one platform, because now is the moment, now is the call to try to learn from one another, to honor one another, and in so doing, to honor this nature and the environment that we are obliged to do. Thank you.
Woo. Thank you so much, Azza Karam, for these important words. You have really managed already to move us in the direction from urgency to delivery, building hope and creative solutions and partnerships. We have a final speaker in this opening session for People and Planet, and that is a really short message from our Minister for Development Cooperation, Swedish minister, I should say, because we are gathered around the globe, so we have numerous of ministers. But from the Swedish government, our Minister for Development Cooperation, Peter Eriksson. So he will give us a brief greeting to get us started. And I should say, before you click on, that he actually visited us and our team here in Härnösand 10 days ago. In particularly, he was interested to see how we are using digital solutions in Swedish Development Corporation to bring more voices and actors on board. So, yes, bring him on.
Hi, I'm Peter Eriksson, Minister of International Development in Sweden. Proudly present People and Planet. I'm so glad that you can be here with us because we are proud that Sida, the Swedish Development Agency, can support this and work with this project. And I want you to know that Agenda 2030 will never be a success story if we not can take on board not only the states and the governments and the authorities, but also indigenous people, religious groups and leaders, and also private investors and financiers and all other groups that are needed for this 2030 agenda to be a success and something that we will remember a change in the world for a better thing. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, from this greeting and from these introductory contributions, what I'm now really excited about doing is, with the help of Bengt, sitting up there in our tech corner, to give you all a chance to let's see. Can we get the Zoom room on the display here as well? To get you all a chance to connect for a moment with each other. So just as the way we do it in regular meetings when we gather in physical form, we'll attempt, again, we're experimenting, we want to attempt to use the functionality of breakout rooms. So what we'll do now is to break you up into smaller groups of 4 or 5 people. That's going to happen at random. So just like you might have sat beside someone you didn't know, and for those of you who are actually placed together with other people in a room, you will get a chance to connect with each other in buzz groups. So what we want you to do, let's see, I'm having a wave from Bengt. Okay, so we will unmute everybody, and when you break out into the groups, you can start talking to each other. So you don't have to sit silent anymore. That's the whole point of this. Yeah, you have to click in the bottom left corner to unmute your microphone. So in the bottom left corner of your Zoom window, you will unmute your microphone when you get sent out into the breakout groups.
And for those of you who are gathered in a learning hub, for example, in South Africa, Pretoria, or Jakarta, or here in Härnösand, you will divide yourself 4 and 4. And if you already know everything about the people around you, just quickly, I mean, I know you can't easily move totally around here, but try to move as much as possible so you get to familiarize yourself with new actors and new persons.
So we will take a total of 8 minutes for this section and this exercise, and then we will, those of you in the breakout rooms, you will get a prompt when there's 30 seconds left to get back to the large room, and then you will again be muted, and we will go into the panel discussion that comes right after that. All right, so let's try to send everyone off into breakout rooms and see how it goes.